massive demand, the number one national park in the US as far as visitors every single year. I mean, the second closest is Yellowstone, and it's not even, I think they double or triple what Yellowstone gets. And so it's a massive draw. And so, but there's a lot of competition, right? There's a lot of properties there. There's a lot of people with properties there. And so, one of the things that scares people many times is saturated markets, is a lot of competition. We always talk within Vodyssey saying, replace the word saturation with demand, right? And so we just talked about demand on the front end, which is why you chose it. Were you worried at all about the competition? Were you worried about, when it started to say, hey, there's a lot of properties that we have to compete with? Was that part of the discussion on the front end at all?
It was part of the discussion, and I was a little bit concerned about it at first. We had a realtor that I felt really good about. She was explaining how big the market is and like how many properties there are. And she really helped us narrow down, like, you want to get something that looks like a cabin because people come here for the cabin experience. Yeah. Like, there's plenty of properties here that are modern or new or not the cabin experience. So I was able to narrow that down. And then another thing that she was like, she really pushed on was like, you need to have something with a view because that's not going to be replaceable. And everything else, I mean, there's plenty of cabins and there's a huge price range of cabins, but there aren't a ton of cabins that have a great view. I mean, there are plenty that are in the Smokies and might have a view, but so we made sure that if we were going to be in a saturated market, that we were going to kind of be exactly what people were looking for, a cabin, like a wooden cabin, and that we would have a view. So when we looked at a lot of the properties that were in the price range, most of them did not have a good view. And we landed on one that did have a good view. It had like a beautiful view. And it wasn't actually our top pick when we had looked at properties before going there in person. And then when we got there in person, we were like, oh, wow, this is an amazing view, but it needed a lot of work. And so they had it priced fairly high, and we had to like get it restained and we did a lot of work to it. So I think it took a minute for it to be ready to go. And the other thing with that cabin that we found was, I don't think it looks as good in pictures as it does in person. And so one of the things we're dealing with right now is how do we get better pictures to really capture the views? Because that's why it didn't sell, I think, initially, is because I think when people look at it and when it was listed, they weren't seeing.
They didn't realize what they had.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, that's one, we love that when we're buying properties, right? We love when they don't do a good job of articulating that on the front end, because when we see them, we're like, oh, this is kind of flying under the radar, right?
Yeah.
Makes it to where you can pick up some of those properties. You also mentioned leaning on those realtor partners to kind of help identify the buy box, right? And saying, and that's one of the things that we do in every one of these markets. Every market has certain kind of things that we're looking for. The Smokies long range views are a massive advantage, right? They're not, every property doesn't have it, like you said, but the ones that do, you can't replace it.
Yeah.
And people love going there for the view, again, and understanding the experience that people want. They want the cabin in the woods experience, right? And saying, okay, this is where we're defining that buy box, and then we find the one with the view. And even though it might not be our favorite choice as far as, the property, maybe the condition had some deferred maintenance, you had to do some work on it, you realize that that's a good trade-off. I can fix all that stuff. I can't fix the view, right? So really proud of you guys for like sticking to that buy box, because a lot of times buyers will look and say, well, I'm going to go for the really brand new construction or the newer one that I don't have to do any work on. And they forget about one of the main things that they can't change, which is the proximity, the views, all those things. When you find the right one there, we deal with a lot of stuff on a property because we can fix that. We can change that. And so sounds like you guys did that. Obviously, hopefully budgeted for that on the front end, time-wise and money-wise. How much did it delay time to go and be, where you had to do some fix up before you could launch it?
I think it delayed a couple of weeks, not too badly, but
not bad then.
No, I was pretty on top of trying to get these contractors to come in and do everything right away. But it was like a lot of coordinating and managing and, being on people as you kind of have to do with contractors. Because it delays everything, right? So if we were so in hindsight, if we had used a lot of the Vodyssey partners to do some of that work, like the design or the photography, it would have all been delayed based off of that. So we used a lot of local partners, and some of that, I do regret doing, but timing wise, I was like, I want to get it listed because the mortgage is going to start, right? So
Yeah.
there's some learning lessons there, but kind of is what it is at this point.